With me is Sir Martin Sorrell, Chief Executive WPP, the country's most powerful advertising executive.
I'm not so sure about that, but anyway.
Well, we big you up to start. Thank you very much for coming in. I mean, the figures today, the economy's slowing. Should we be worried?
Well, it's a tug of war. You know, you've got lower oil prices, you've got QE in Europe, you've got momentum behind the economy in the UK. I mean, we've certainly seen momentum in our business. Revenues up from about 2.3 billion to 3.3 billion over 5 years, employment up from 12,500 to 16,000. And then the other side of the tug of war, the pulling apart, is obviously what's happening in Europe with Ukraine, obviously Greece, the possibility of a Grexit, a Greek exit from the Eurozone. So all these things, you've got a sort of tug of war pulling between the two. My own view is that things will remain in pretty good shape until the election. You've got this big uncertainty surrounding the election.
You've always talked about the enemy of uncertainty, and we have huge uncertainty here. You know, the spectacular events in Greece.
You've got the black swans. You know, this time last year, we weren't talking about the Ukraine, we weren't talking about Hong Kong and problems for the Chinese administration. We weren't talking about ISIS. But so there may well be some black swans, the unknown unknowns as well, to throw into the mix. But essentially, we've got an election coming up in May. We'll have another quarterly set of statistics, maybe some revisions of these ONS statistics upwards, making manufacturing and construction a bit better, because it was the service sector in Q4 that did well. The rest of it, of course, didn't. Because the other thing to remember is that since the crash of Lehman, the economy has only recovered really above its previous level because of the service sector.
See, what's critical is for the people that you employ here, for example, for people going out to work every day, when will they actually feel that the economy is on the right track?
Well, this is the political problem. This is the problem at the ballot box. But whichever way it goes, if Labour wins, obviously business is not as enthusiastic about Labour as a coalition led by the Conservatives. If the coalition is led by the Conservatives, we have the uncertainty of a referendum over Europe. Now, it might be dragged forward from 2017, because I think the Prime Minister realises that uncertainty until 2017 could be very damaging. So if you pull it forward a bit, maybe to 16, you reduce the scale of the uncertainty. But it's this uncertainty around the election, as a lot of people say on your programme and elsewhere, uncertainty is the killer. It's that uncertainty of the election and then the possibility of a referendum. People are split. I think at Davos, most of the people that I talked to felt that the Conservatives would win, or it would be a Conservative-led coalition, not a majority party.
You know, as you say, you know, Europe will be one of the key areas, yes. And as part of that, there's that huge question about immigration.
Well, there's immigration, and that seems, you know, maybe it's coming off the boil a bit. I don't know. We'll have to see. UKIP seems to have lost its certain footing in the last few days.
But it's not just UKIP talking about immigration now, is it?
No,
I mean,
it's a big election issue, and that's why the Prime Minister took a step towards the right wing of his party and those people who were disaffected and going across to UKIP. But maybe there's a little bit of uncertainty.
What do you make of that in terms of the impact that it has on business?
In terms of what?
You know, you say, you know, that David Cameron took a step to the right. I mean, he said today, I believe we would be a better, stronger country if we had net migration in the tens of thousands rather than the hundreds of thousands as a businessman and employer. Do you agree with
judgment. As a second-generation immigrant, I would beg to disagree with that.
But what do you make of it, tonally and in terms of the message it sends to business?
It's a political message. It's a political message to try and deal with the extremes of the party and the differences of view within the party. You see this whether we're looking at Greece. You see this, I mean, an unholy alliance in Greece between the extreme left and the extreme right. On the extreme right, they were talking about Jewish people who don't pay taxes. So in Greece, so these are extremes that you have to deal with, because it's not an economic issue.
But what is your message? But it is an economic issue in terms of how many people are coming to work here, what sort of workforce you have.
If I look at overall economic policy, whether I'm thinking about technology or education or infrastructure, or taxation policy, one of the big issues is immigration. If you look at economic growth, one of the big drivers of economic growth generally, we can argue about the levels, but generally is immigration has stimulated economies. It hasn't crippled them.
So David Cameron is wrong when he says we'd be a better...
I would hesitate to go as far as that.
I mean, that's what you're saying, isn't it?
No, what I'm saying is I think immigration but generally stimulates an economy. It doesn't cramp it or hinder it. What it becomes with high levels of unemployment, it becomes a political issue because people think they're denied jobs because people are coming in from outside.
But you don't think that's true?
I think on balance, not so. But the interesting thing is, if the point system was applying when my grandparents came from the Ukraine and Poland and Romania in the early part of the last millennium, they wouldn't have got in.
So Martin Sorrell, we'll have to leave it there.
Jackie.
Thank you very much for joining us.